What is going on, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer from blueandgold.com here with our football analyst, Tim Hyde, a longtime veteran coach out in the state of California, coaching high school and JUCO ball, and certainly a longtime follower of the Fighting Irish. Tim, we'll just kind of open up by your general thoughts about the game. What'd you think about Notre Dame's 27-13 win over Purdue?
Number one, I would have to say I think the big thing was defense. I thought defense was just outstanding for most of the game. Even the one touchdown drive, they gave up. Hey, they gave up one touchdown drive, against a really, really good offensive football team, the heck of a quarterback. So a great defensive effort. That's the one thing that just really, really stood out to me. And on offense, they took shots. They kept going deep. They kept trying. They missed Austin about a half a dozen times, it seemed like, early in the game, but they just stuck to their game plan. I think that was, one of the things I really came away from was Kelly, Reese. They stuck to their game plan. They stayed very physical. Not that they hammered the ball away all game long, but they stayed physical. And then obviously you get the 51-yard touchdown run that, was the crack. So defense, offense, a heck of a pin punt that set Purdue way down there on the 1-yard line. So well-rounded, solid football game after the first two games that we've gone down to the last second here.
How about this, Tim? They covered the spread. They covered the spread. We haven't seen that. Tim, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you just had a very confused look on your face. I wasn't sure if I had lost you, but
Sorry about that.
No, Notre Dame covered the spread. Yeah, they're a 7-point favorite. We both picked Notre Dame to cover the spread, and the Irish did do that. Tim, having a little bit of feedback. If you have headphones, if you can throw those in. If not, I will just have to mute you.
Give me 2 seconds.
Yep. So while Tim goes and grabs some headphones, take a look at some stats. Jack Cohn completing 15 of 31 passes. That's just under 50% completion percentage, 223 yards, 2 touchdowns. Certainly could have thrown about 4 or 5. And you don't even see down in the receiving category. Kevin Austin isn't listed because the stat broadcast system, you only get listed there if you have a reception. But he was targeted at least 6-7 times. Him and Jack Cohn just could not get on the same page there. And Tim and I will certainly talk about that. Notre Dame seemed to do a better job today limiting those big plays. No 60-yard gains. You look at the Purdue rushing, they had a long of a 31-yard gain on the ground, and then through the air, David Bell had that phenomenal 32-yard reception. And best wishes and prayers for David Bell as he had that rough injury. Hoping for the best there, but. Kyren Williams, 12 rushes, 91 yards, and the score. The rushing game. I mean, when you take a look at the sack-adjusted rush yard average, which is on the right side of your screen here, 146 yards, 4.9 yards per carry, very much aided by that 51-yard gain by Kyren Williams. If you're just joining us, I'm Mike Singer, and he is Tim Hyde. We are live on YouTube. Appreciate you guys joining us live here. And for those who are watching us back, appreciate you as well. Make sure you hit that thumbs up on the video. Help support what we are doing here at blueandgold.com. Subscribe to us on YouTube if you're not yet, and go to blueandgold.com for all of your coverage of Notre Dame football. We believe that we could be your home for Fighting Irish football coverage. So, Tim, let's go to the offensive line. What did you think from that group today? I believe Purdue had 4 sacks, so still a higher number than you would have liked, but all in all, I think this was a better performance than what we saw the past couple weeks.
Yeah, a much better performance, but that was the game plan. I think after the Toledo game, I think they realized they had to keep an extra guy in, do some extra chipping, have a tight end a bunch. A couple guys got beat. I mean, I think moving forward as a Notre Dame, people are going to be watching these football games. I think we're going to expect some sacks. Ludd got bull rushed really bad into one. Corral gave up a bull rush. I know people are going to get on Tosh Baker, but the guy's been in the program for 18 months. So he got beat again on an inside one. But overall, I would have to agree that Purdue number 5 is a grown man. That guy's unbelievable. He is. I mean, that's a first round draft choice right there. And I thought they held him in check, even though he had a couple plays. They had to move him inside where he beat Madden on one. I believe it was Madden on one of them. But good football game. I thought those guys played their tails off. They really did. I was a little surprised to see Madden play the entire game. I know Chris Offutt got in, I believe, for 2 series, if my notes were right there in the first half, and then Zeke played the entire second half. But overall, those guys really played their tails off. They really did. They played really hard.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess let's talk about quarterbacks. Let's get right into that. What did you see from Jack Cohn? And we'll get to Tyler Buckner, Tim, but first want to discuss Jack Cohn, what you thought about his performance. Completion percentage wasn't very high, but I want to get your thoughts on him. I feel like we might disagree on our thoughts on Jack Cohn's performance from what we were texting throughout the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, the biggie is just the shots. He missed some shots, and early on I was like, is it the finger? Is it sore? Is it still, a little beat up from last week? Because he just kept missing. I felt the shots were out of bounds. It looked like he kept throwing the fades to where really no one could catch them. But that's what you do. You just keep taking shots, and they did. There's no doubt about that. A lot less RPOs last week against Toledo. They really threw the fake stretch, hit the out routes. They really only attempted, from what I saw, maybe 2 or 3 true RPO actions with the run and the pass, a true style of an RPO. But other than that, I mean, Cohn was solid. Low completion percentage. They threw some deep outs to the wide side, which 2 were incomplete. And then the shots. Those are the 50-50 balls. And at the end of the day, they hit the one big one, and that's what got him going. No doubt about that.
I truly believe that Jack Cohn is a damn good quarterback. All this stuff about he is a game manager, Wisconsin quarterbacks, they're no good. All that stuff, we need to stop that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know, like maybe I watch games differently than most people do, but I saw some Notre Dame fans saying he shouldn't come out and they don't need to play Cohn in the second half. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, he missed on a few, but I compare it to like a 3-point shooter in basketball. They can go cold. It looks good. The shot goes in and out, but they might miss a few in a row. Those 40, 50-yard bombs they're not easy to complete. And it's not like he was throwing and missing the broadside of a barn. I mean, they were just misses. Even some of those out of bounds. Like, I can't remember any of those misses that were just like blatantly bad throws.
I agree.
I don't know, Tim. What do you think?
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, they were just misses. They were like right on the borderline there on a couple right on the out of bounds and one in the back of the end zone. But you want to talk about Jack Cohn. I mean, how about the pass that Lindsey drops? That's yep. A dime. I mean, you can't. I mean, that's right there, absolutely perfect football play. The game's over right there. Boom, done, and you get the drop. But no, I mean, Cohn's solid. There's no doubt about that. He is what he is, and I think going into after these 3 games, a lot of the guys that have been stepping up in each and every game are a lot of the same guys. That are, we're starting to get a consistent feel of who's who on this football team after 3 games. And I know Coach Kelly talked about that earlier this week, was after this 3rd game, after this Purdue game, that we're going to know kind of who we are in so many facets of our football team. And I think they know who they are now.
Yeah. Thank you for stopping there, because we definitely want to get into the identity of the Notre Dame offense. Before we do, let's talk about Notre Dame quarterback Tyler Buckner. Don't have the snap counts in front of me, We will publish that article at blueandgold.com on Tuesday with his final numbers for all the guys' snap counts. But Buckner had that incomplete pass out to Kevin Austin. Beautiful play design. That would have went for a big gain. Buckner read it well. That nickel corner linebacker, I don't remember who was out there for Purdue, came in on the run. Buckner just threw out that pass a little bit too far in front of Austin. I think Austin would have had a big gain there. Which, by the way, if I'm Kevin Austin right now, or if I'm speaking to Kevin Austin, I should say, I would not be too frustrated, man. I really wouldn't. Like, you are so close to having like a 5-reception, 150-yard game. It was just some bad luck. I mean, that Cone barely missed all of those. The DB made a really good play on that jump ball where he wasn't able to come down with it. Buckner just threw that bubble a little too far out in front of him. But so, Austin, if you just happen to be watching this, don't be too frustrated.
But I think he caused two PIs or two defensive holdings.
Right, there you go.
So so he did cause a couple of those. That kept drives alive. No, I mean, yeah, I mean he's a guy that if he's a left fielder that's taking hacks in a baseball game, he had 3 shots today that got caught on the warning track. Is basically what it is. And the next game he's going to catch 2. So no, I mean it's the same thing. They just kept chopping, and I think they're going to go up top because they know they got some athletes on the outside. Their perimeter game is very, very good. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. So, and then with Buckner in the rushing game, 3 carries, 24 yards, had that beautiful 20-yard gain. Again, they're backed up against their own goal line. He even broke out of a tackle of George Karlaftis. I mean, Karlaftis was kind of falling to the ground, so it's not like, he truck sticked him, but still, broke out of that tackle. I mean, what's your take on Tyler Buckner's lack of usage? Is probably under 10 snaps, I would guess. So what do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I was gonna say about 8 to 10 at the most. It felt like him out there. You know what? I thought his package. I think he was in 12 personnel most of the time. I think only one time did they really go for 4 wides, meaning spread a true 2x2 or a 3x1 formation with him. So. His 2 games he's been in, they've been tight packages, zone read type looks, obviously a QB keeper, the QB power that they wanted to run on one of them. So it seems like a small package. There's no doubt about that. And it's going to be like, if Buckner breaks it, he's such a good athlete. They're just going to let him go. They're going to let him go. So I was a little surprised, but I also think, hey, Notre Dame's trying to get 3-0 before this gauntlet that's coming up here. They went with their most experienced guy. Defense was playing lights out. They went with the vet, and they said, "Finish this game for us."
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean,
sure.
It was working. I mean, the O-line. I mean, yes, there were some sacks, but it wasn't like every single time he dropped back there was pressure. He got the ball out quicker a lot of times. I thought Cone had very good pocket presence. I love Jack Cone throwing those deep outs. Oh, that one to Avery Davis was absolutely beautiful. Tim, you got something to say?
Oh, yeah. You talk about pocket presence, except for the corner blitz. What?
Right.
Can they not reckon? I mean, the corners, the ones against Toledo and today, they're lining up so hard inside. So something's got to be clicking to where there's not an alert call, something. Even Williams on the corner blitz that got to Cone went up straight into the pocket. No one ever checked. And if you look at that play, if Cone just looked for a millisecond, tight end's gone. There's no one covering the tight end on that corner blitz. So,
yeah, we
gotta
do
work on those.
We do have a super chat. Really appreciate Daniel Wade dropping a super chat of $5. If we will take questions a little bit later in the show, but if you drop a super chat, we will certainly take it right away. Daniel says we made some strides today. Very proud of the defense. Go Irish. And when you look at the stats, let's focus in here on the right side of the screen, the game comparison. Purdue actually outgained Notre Dame 348 to 343. The rush yards, Purdue could not get anything going. They also only attempted looks like right around 20. King Daru had 10 rushing attempts. Dylan Downing 8. I mean, they threw the ball 54 times. I mean, this is a
Oh
passing
yeah.
offense. The broadcast continued to hammer that point. But I mean, still, I mean, the defense gave up a good bit of yardage. But that when it was important plays like Notre Dame, the defense rise to the occasion, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Well, most of those yards were in the opening drive of the third quarter. Obviously the one, the big pass, and then the longest run, which what was it, 30 something yards
Yeah, 31.
off a corner blitz. Lewis has the guy tackled on the line of scrimmage and just whiffs, and the guy breaks it out. So that was it, and that was another busted tackle. I think Houston Griffin got flat-footed on that as well. That allowed for that. Overall, seriously, I thought the defense was just lights out. They
Sure.
were. They gave up a couple little, yards here and there when they're playing a little, deeper up by 2 touchdowns. Fine, that's going to happen. Overall, that was a darn good defensive football game today. And going back to just real quick, is the same guys, just like what the guy asked right there, dominate. With JD Bertrand, 12, 13 tackles. Where's he at? Yeah, right there, 12. I'm telling you, how did 27 not play for 2 years? I mean, I know I sent you a text during the game. He's unbelievable. He is. Oh my! I mean, I don't even know what. I mean, he is so good.
Well,
That
what is
guy
he
is
doing?
one heck of a football. His oh god is. I mean, he is fast. How? I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. Was this not? Did no one see this for 2 years? It is. I know Mr. Mike Goolsby will probably agree with that, since he was in the same boat. Goulds was in the same boat at Notre Dame, for his 2 years, and all of a sudden he got the shot as his time went. There's a lot of Notre Dame players that have had that thing, over time. And JD Bertrand, maybe it's just weight room, maybe it's just getting better, because we always heard about him over the years and practice, and then all of a sudden he doesn't play his freshman year, but he was being talked about during camp. So unbelievable football. He is fast. His strike ability is dangerous. The way that guy fills and hits. Foskey was a freak again. MTA, like I just keep telling you all that every time I watch film, 95 just pops out.
Yeah.
He is a physical presence.
Yeah. So let's talk about the defensive line. I mean, continues to be a strength of the Notre Dame defense, and the Irish had 3 sacks. You had Foskey and Myron Tongvaloa Mosa had a half sack. Justin Adamulola had the sack. I believe that was the one on the was it the halfback pass.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then Nana Asafo-Mensah. How about that?
Yeah, 31. He got one.
After his going down last year, and it was out all of 2020. Really great to see him getting quality snaps and making an impact. What do you think about the defensive line? What can you tell us about MTA and Isaiah Foskey? I know you're very high on those guys.
I mean, same thing, physical. Going into the season, I think after all these years of Myron playing the 3 tech, being inside, is he a guy that can go outside and play the edge? After Florida State, I remember telling you, is like, throw that away. He can play anywhere. He can play anywhere. This guy's making a lot of money this year. He's going to be an NFL defensive end, in a heartbeat. He is just very athletic. And I remember in one of his interviews where Myron was talking about, like, hey, I came in as a DN. They moved me inside to get me on the field early on. So he's always considered himself a DN. So he's got that mindset. 57 is just a tank inside. Heinisch had an unbelievable TFL, just a one-on-one, beat the center block. It's a good group. I don't think they rotated as much. There's definitely dudes out there that they're rotating. Obviously Cross and 99 was in there.
Mills.
They did, but it just seemed like a little less. At least it felt like that. I'm looking forward to seeing the final rep numbers on that. But it seemed like they went with their big guys a lot longer today at many positions, even the linebacker spots.
Sure. So taking a look at the drive charts, Notre Dame's first 3 punts, and you're kind of like, oh, look at the plays. 3 plays, 4 plays, 3 plays, and then the offense got it going. Touchdown, field goal, punt, touch, and then kind of every other drive was a touchdown. So I guess let's kind of get into talking about the offensive identity because,
Yeah.
I think you're feeling better about Notre Dame right now with a 2 touchdown win, covering the spread, all that kind of good stuff. Not a nail biter, but there's still kind of a reality check when you're looking at this Notre Dame offense. Couldn't really run the ball. Outside of that one Kyron Williams run where, he just kind of broke one. Got to give some credit. I do want to touch on that run specifically, but when you just look at the Notre Dame offense, today it was Jack Home throw up some balls and hope that Avery Davis and Braden Lindsey, Kevin Austin can come down with them. They needed big plays. The one to Kyron. Heck, nearly an interception that Cone just snuck it in there, and there was no one else. They're playing a cover zero look. I mean, do you feel better about this offense after this game, or I mean, what the heck is the identity of it?
A lot of it feels the same over the 3 games, here and there, taking shots, getting the ball out. A couple broken plays, like even last week against Toledo. The big play was the little flare out to Tyree in the flat from Buckner. And that was a beautiful little angle route right there by Kyron Williams when they went to empty, and he threaded that needle. But as far as the identity goes, I mean, Notre Dame, Brian Kelly and Reese want to run the ball.
Yeah.
And even on some of those runs, the 4 yard runs, people, fans I'm sure are getting frustrated or whatnot, like, oh, we should be getting more, but they're physical. They're physical. And I think they just kept going and going. We're just going to stick to this. Play action, go deep. I think as the game went on, you kind of got the sense that they were going to do more play fakes and go up top on some of those play action posts. But the identity, I was charting right here. I mean, 35 times. I could be off 1 or 2, obviously, but I count 35 times in this game where they had 2 tight ends on the field. And about a half a dozen where they had 13 getting your guy, Mr. Number 45 on the field, who had a couple outstanding blocks. So I'm going to sprinkle that out there to you, give you a little smile. Oh, yeah. I mean, 45 pancakes the guy. People go back and watch Kyron Williams' 51-yard run. Joe Alt hesitates for a second, pancakes the son of a gun on that run. So I'm sure you were happy. But I think that was their identity. Takis is on the field more. Obviously, Michael Mayer was not a factor in the pass game, but in the run game, he sure was. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, seemed like your boy Tosh Baker, who
Yes,
had some rough moments against Toledo. Seemed like he had a decent game. I mean, certainly not perfect. Again, the offensive line gave up a few sacks, but there were certainly some plays where he was tasked with the one-on-one versus George Karlaftis, and heck, I can't remember which play it was. I texted you about it, so I'm going to pull my phone and grab it.
No, I hear you. I know what you're talking
I think
about.
it was it was the ball to Kevin Austin that he dropped.
He dropped, yeah.
Yeah, he stepped up in the pocket because Tosh Baker just drove Karlaftis out of the play. So what do you think about Tosh?
Well, number one, he's the 4th offensive tackle. He's the 4th best offensive tackle who has played, basically every single snap the last 6 quarters. And he's been thrown out there into the fire, and he's playing his tail off. He's a guy that was light as could be last year. I think he got in the one of the last drives in the game. He looked like a tall, skinny guy out there in last season's game. So he's definitely put on some weight. He's going to be a good football player. When I see 79, I'm sure some of the old-time Notre Dame guys will think of Mike Rosenthal that played during the Lou Holtz years. That was the first thing I talked about, big, wide shoulders and whatnot out of him. And he played fine. Notre Dame's had 3 games and 3 starting left tackles. And all the left tackles have been in this program 18 months or less. So these guys are giving effort. He's going to get beat. He gave up some leverage, leaned a little bit. It's going to happen to a guy that was not expected to be playing this much football.
A couple of quick items as we record this. Man, Alabama 31-29. Florida went for a 2-point conversion to try to tie it up with 3 minutes left, and it failed. Man, that game is a lot closer than you would have thought. And then let me throw this up on the screen. This is from Brian Kelly's press conference. Tweet from Tyler Horka. Brian Kelly said Tyler Buckner had a tight hamstring as the day went on, which is why he didn't play in the second half. Kelly said it isn't serious. but wasn't worth putting him on the field. So there's kind of a little bit more details on why you didn't see Tyler Buckner. But again, he wasn't really needed.
No.
I mean, the passing offense got it done, but it would have been a better day if he was in there.
Well, I don't think he was needed. It goes back to the defense. I think the trust factor that Coach Kelly had today with that defense was just like, hey, let's let these guys play. They went blitz happy. I felt a lot early. It just seemed like more blitzes. I mean, they love to bring the mic and the will a lot, a lot. And but as the game went on, they started to realize, hey, we're up a touchdown, then 2 scores. Let's just sit back and make these guys make plays, and they kept everything in front of them that fourth quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's take a look at the stats yet again. Penalties. You see here on the right side of the screen, 8 penalties for 61 yards, many of them on false starts. Yeah. Any thoughts on some of these penalties, Tim? Because that was uncharacteristic of Notre Dame football team.
Yeah, I mean, 2 of them were on Baker, if I remember right. On the left tackle, Baker out there, and one of them was when they stemmed. Purdue's line stemmed. Everyone jumped, and he jumped as well. So happens. I mean, how many false starts did Liam Eichenberg have in 18 and 19?
Well,
So I don't know. I look at it like that. I'm not gonna some false starts that's going to happen here or there. But the big one that gave Purdue great field position for their touchdown was the penalty on Adamiola, number 57, in the first half. That gave Purdue an extra 15 yards on that touchdown drive to start the half. So, yeah, a couple here and there. A couple PIs. PIs kept the touchdown drive alive by Lewis there on the third down that would have forced a field goal. But a couple penalties at the end of the day. I think Coach Kelly's going to be pretty happy with a 14-point win against a Big Ten football team.
Sure. A couple more items, and then we're going to get straight into questions. But if you want your question answered right away, or to ensure that we'll answer your question, just drop us a super chat. We really support those, and it helps support what we're doing here at blueandgold.com. Pop up this graphic from NBC. Most coaching wins, Notre Dame history. Of course, Newt Rockne. 105 wins from 1918 to 1930. Brian Kelly tied that total, of course, 21 wins vacated by the NCAA, which Notre Dame says screw that.
Exactly.
Any thoughts on Brian Kelly reaching 105? It seems like for him to get a statue still, he's got to win a title. And even when Kelly's been asked about this, he's just said, look, it's longevity. I don't know if he's put this into words, but it's essentially said, until I get a championship, let's calm down. Newt's still the man.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Kelly is speaking the truth there. I mean, it's longevity. You play 12, 13 games nowadays. When Rockne was coaching, it was 9 and 10. So it's, obviously a little, you got more games to go and things of that nature. But for Coach Kelly to be sitting here at 105 wins on this picture with a guy who's got a few statues there in South Bend after the 2016 meltdown is unbelievable. It's unbelievable what they have done since 2017. Coach Kelly's a heck of a football coach. He's won everywhere he's been. Obviously they don't have the national title. I guess we could always thank Kansas State in 2012 for losing late in the year and not being a K-State Notre Dame Orange Bowl. But other than that, I mean, he's done a heck of a job. And I think it's awesome what he's accomplished in all his years.
All right, let's kind of look at what's next. I mean, do you feel better about this Notre Dame football team right now than you did after the Toledo game? Defense, we had talked about, look, it was just a lot of missed tackles, very easily correctable things you weren't too concerned about. Offense, though, I don't know if I feel much better about the offense. Maybe a little bit more confidence in the offensive line pass protection, but not much change in the run game. Receivers are good, not great. How do you feel about this team when you look at the stretch coming up? Wisconsin, Cincinnati, Virginia Tech, USC, North Carolina. Wow.
Yeah, it's gonna be a gauntlet. I did not look at any other scores, so I don't know how the Cincy IU
Cincy
game
won by a
go.
couple touchdowns
Oh, they
against
came back. Okay,
Indiana.
I saw
Um,
it early. Saw an early score was
yeah, I'm
all.
not sure on some of the other games. I will look those up for you, Tim.
Gotcha. But yeah, I think each week, I think Notre Dame's going to just be each week on offense. What gives us the best opportunity is today. It was like we've got to block number 5, and both really both the ends from Purdue. So they went more 12 personnel. They went more double tights, more guys in. Um, is what they did. One of the early sacks was Kyron Williams stayed in too long. I think Cone was waiting for him to release, and he stayed in chipping forever. And Cone's like, "Get out there! I want to hit you the ball." So it's going to be this is going to be a week by week. It's going to be a week by week football team, and there's no problem with that. With the schedules coming up, it should be week by week. No one should be looking ahead and anything of that nature. Just take a deep breath, enjoy this season as it comes. Wisconsin's going to be a physical football game. They got to find a way to run the ball against which we're going to expect your typical physical Big Ten football team, which Wisconsin usually is in that front 7. So they're going to have to take some shots there. But on defense, even in the Toledo game, I mean, it's the same thing as this Purdue game. They gave up just the 2 big plays on just 2 of the most brutal defensive assignments that you could see on the wheel route against Toledo, which was just bad football. And then obviously the corner blitz, or I talked about that on the message board the other day, which 3 guys in one gap, the running back was picking 2 holes to go for. So I think Marcus Freeman just keep doing what he's doing. Keep doing what he's doing. He's settling into he's really got 3 packages. I thought today they played 4-3 more than any. They must have played in the 4-3 about 2/3 of the game of their true 4-3. So I think he's settling in. I think they're starting to get comfortable, and whatnot. And I think the key coming out of today is no injuries. Correct?
Not yet, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Buckner just, he should be fine. So looking at some of the scores, Wisconsin has a bye week. Cincinnati beat Indiana by a couple touchdowns. Virginia Tech falls to West Virginia.
Oh, wow.
USC, after trailing 14-7 early in the game, up 45-14. Jackson Dart, a former 5-star recruit, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And then North Carolina plays at 7:30 against Virginia, I believe. So that is the outlook there. All right, we're going to get straight into question times. Question time. And we do have a super chat from Daniel Wade. So we do appreciate that. If you have a question, Daniel, I did not see that pop up. So if you have one, just let me know. Jacob Dunn says, could you evaluate and appreciate the super chat, Jacob, could you evaluate the day that the interior offensive line had in the running game?
Struggled a little bit outside of a few runs, but I mean, they're playing physical. I mean, I can't wait to go back and rewatch this game and break it down, frame by frame and see how they do. But Madden played every snap. I think the biggest surprise for me was Madden played every snap. From what I saw, I constantly saw 62 out there. Kristofic played a little bit in the first half for Zeke, but Madden played a heck of a lot. So I was a little surprised at that. It's 3 games without seeing Rocco Spindler getting in there, just even for a series, even for a cup of coffee to go out there and go hit someone and see what it feels like. So I was a little surprised by that, But Notre Dame's trying to go outside. They had a great outside run set up. And then last second, Takis' guy gets right off of him and makes a nice tackle. So, overall, I think it is what it is. We have Kane Madden looks like he's going to play a ton. We have a new guy. And that's the other thing as I was evaluating, just real quick, Mike, is, Zeke Correll has played center every single day that he's been at Notre Dame. All right. And he went through the whole spring. Obviously, finished the season last year, goes through the winter, goes through the spring. He's the center. And then all of a sudden camp starts, they throw him at left guard. So that is something that had not happened for him. So he's only been at left guard for 6 weeks? 6 weeks. So he's still, obviously he's still learning, still cranking away. Patterson, I thought, had a couple outstanding blocks, but on the 51-yard touchdown play, you want to talk about the big play, go back and watch the left side. Correll and Baker, I mean, they pushed this Purdue guy back 10 yards. Carell gets off the ball faster than anyone, and he's just right in his belly button drive blocking him. So when it came, crunch time, those guys got off the ball, and obviously big push in there.
All right, comment. Question here from Donnie Cruz says, would you make any switches on the offensive line right now? I guess you can kind of look at it two ways. If you were the coach, Tim, what would you do with the offensive line? Like if you had a blank slate, and I guess the other half of it would be, what do you think Notre Dame should do, if that makes sense?
Well, there really is no switches. I mean, my humble opinion, who are you going to switch? Josh Lugg has to play right tackle. I mean, he does. He has to play right tackle. They don't have. I mean, they're not going to play alt. He wore 45 today, so I think that was their other thing, is to get an extra tackle on the field. They moved alt to number 45 to go run block there as a run block and tight end. They're not going to move Patterson because obviously they don't have trust and confidence in the guards and the backup guards. If they were going to make that move and move Zeke back to center and Patterson to left or right tackle and Lug to left tackle and start mixing and matching all this stuff, I think we would have seen Spindler in by now. You would have seen Kristofic playing in the second half, probably splitting time even more so. And I think after today, there's not going to be any changes. It's just going to be keep working, and just stick to the plan and just get these guys better and get the big man on the left side back here in a month.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't know if it's even going to be a month. I mean, it could be up to 8 weeks. So yeah.
Well, it's been 2, so I'm counting 2. So fingers crossed.
A month and a half. SJ says, I think Notre Dame with Cohn is not a playoff caliber team. And then he follows up with saying, with a stud quarterback, maybe. I mean, if
a stud quarterback is going to win anywhere.
If Kyler Murray comes in and he's the quarterback, he's just the kind of the first guy to see just how mobile he is. That would very much help. But the comment is kind of negative towards Cohn when Cohn is not the problem. He makes throws that Ian Book never couldn't make, just did not. So I don't understand the Jack Cohn slander.
No, his out routes. I mean, when Cohn throws some of those deep out routes, he could throw. He could throw. His vertical game, he could get it in there. He had a couple misses, but they were taking the swings and all that. If the issue with Cohn, I think it's the same one we heard about for 9 months after, since he's transferred, is he holds the ball. But he holds the ball because he's a true believer. I think he's a true believer in his guys. And I'm holding that ball because I'm trying to find the right guy at the right time to deliver the ball. I think he holds the ball often, but that's probably after watching Ian Book scramble around for the last 3 years. When Book feels anything, he would take off. Cohn's like, no. I mean, he did take off today for 1 or 2 times. That was like the most we had seen in the first few games. But Cohn is who he is. He's going to sit in that pocket, and I think they just got to keep ironing out some of the protections, iron out what they want to do with the running back. But I think that's going to go into each game of which one of the down 4, let's say each team's coming in with a 4-3, so to speak, which one of those 4 are we going to double? Which one of those 4 are we going to take away? And today they went after number 5 at Purdue.
Question from Levi says, surprised not to see any receiver or bubble screens. I mentioned the one to Austin earlier on an RPO, but I don't remember many of those.
Yeah, I mean, they hit a couple swing routes today. I think that was their thing, was they hit some of the swing routes.
That's right.
That's been a big thing because Coach Kelly, I mean, you're going back to TJ Jones, Will Fuller. I mean, how many middle screens did Will Fuller catch? A ton. I mean, they would throw screens down to him on the 3-yard line. So not a lot of screens. And I think a guy like Lindsey and stuff like that, I'm a little surprised 3 games in they haven't tried doing some middle screens or whatnot. But I would definitely agree with this. Just screens. They have thrown a lot of screens to the running backs. They threw 1 bubble and 3 tailback screens last week against Toledo. Today, I don't think we saw a screen, did we?
No, yeah. I mean, some of those swings are very much
swings.
I mean, the receivers are out there blocking.
No, exactly. So it's a called swing. The one to Tyree was a called swing. That's the same as a bubble. Same as a slot, catching it out there as a bubble.
Sure.
But I'm talking like the true Will Fuller middle screens. Let's go hit it. We've not seen that from this offense this year.
Yeah, I think we've talked about just about every position group except for tight ends and the secondary. So let's start with the tight ends. What did you see from that group today? And we talked about in our pregame show on Friday, tight ends have to help out, chip in to help out the tackles. Seemed like that was there, and they did a good job. Michael Mayer
What did
finished
he have?
the
Two
game with one
catches?
one
One?
catch, 5 yards, 4 targets. So Purdue clearly did a good job of taking him out of the game. So what'd you see from the tight ends? George Takis, think he's
He's
done a
playing
good
a
job this
lot.
season. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. I mean, without a doubt. Even Evans was out there in one of the 13 packages. I saw him out there when Mayer was out, so they put Evans in. So obviously, they have some confidence in playing him and, moving Alt, obviously. I mean, basically, Alt's just the third tackle in those
right.
blocking packages is what he is.
Let me interrupt you, Tim, which is interesting about Joe Alt. During his junior season,
He played
that's
tight
what he
end.
was. He was a tight
Yeah.
end. He caught like 6 passes, but he basically was a just 6 offensive tackles. It's kind of funny. I remember interviewing him after he had already signed with Notre Dame but hadn't enrolled yet, and he said that like that could happen. Like he could have some packages where you play as a true freshman as an extra blocker. So kind of interesting that came to fruition. Sorry, Tim, I
Okay.
had you muted there. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say the thing with the tight end is athletes, guys that can move their feet, very athletic, very mobile. A couple of the great Notre Dame ones in the past, you got during Lou Holtz's championship year, you had Andy Heck, who played tight end his first couple of years, and then Luke Pettigoat, obviously down the road as well, who was a first round draft choice. He came in as a tight end. So Notre Dame has a history. I mean, McGlinchey was a tight end. Mike McGlinchey was a tight
Yeah.
end in high school. So you gotta you know, I mean, there's a long lineage of great tight ends that moved to tackle at Notre Dame that end up just being great football players. And I think Alt has proven. I think Alt, let's take 30 seconds and talk about your fan club. I think Alt, exactly. I think Alt coming in, people are like, oh, he played a little small ball in Minnesota, blah blah blah, stuff of that nature. He's athletic. I mean, he had some unbelievable moves today. At least the way he fits and fights and gets after the blocks. And the way you hear Coach Kelly talk about him ever since he's been on campus is, we're going to find a way to get this guy on the field. And that's a testament to that young man as well, coming in so big, ready, strong, and ready to play some football.
Yeah, on Kyron's touchdown run, he was lined up at tight end on the left side, came inside, pancake.
Yeah.
That kid does not like to block and not put the guy on his butt. So very impressive, by Joe Waltz. The fan club is certainly happy today. I will say that. A couple questions I thought were pretty good I want to get to. Donnie Cruz saying, what do you think about Reese's play calling today? Thought it was good. Play calling is one of those things that,
Yeah.
like, I remember the flea flicker against Florida State. If that would have been completed, the responses would have been, well, of course. Why wouldn't you do a flea flicker there? And then when it doesn't work, it's, Reese is an idiot. Donnie Cruz, clearly, level-headed here. Would you? I mean, that was 27 points against Purdue at home.
Yeah.
They should have put up more points. But what'd you think about the play calling?
Well, I think number one, I think I think this Purdue team's a lot better than it was. I don't even count the COVID stuff with so many of these teams last year that struggled and whatnot. I mean, so many different teams went through so many different, issues. So, those that had success last year, great. Those that didn't probably went through more than whatever. But I mean, you watch that football game, Jeff Brom's involved in every single millisecond of his team. So that guy's coaching his tail off. That was a good football team. There's a lot of good football plays, really good football players out there. Excuse me. They got a bunch of transfers, a lot of SEC guys running around out there. I think Reese and Kelly, I truly believe they thought their D line was going to dominate, and they did. And let's go out and win this game, get physical. Don't let number 5 become an All-American today with 4 sacks. That type of a blow-up game where he's going to be on the, ESPN highlight reel. And I think they took him out. Obviously, he made a couple great plays because he's a first-round draft choice. The guy's going to make plays. Overall, they kept him They kept him at bay. They kept him at bay is what they did. I thought he did a great job play calling because he stuck to his guns. He played physical football all game long. And when they needed to spread it out, do some four wides, mix it in a little bit, they did. And I think the key, going back what we talked a handful of times today, is the deep shots. They were going to take deep shots, and they ended up getting the one big one.
Yeah. No, I love that element of the Notre Dame offense, seeing some of those. So, super chat here. Appreciate you, Michael Ryan. Drops $10. Says the packages for Cohn and Buckner seem exclusive to each quarterback. Does that make them too predictable? So, when Buckner comes in, they're going to crowd the line. It's not quite like a wildcat quarterback where, it's a running back, so you don't have to pay attention to the throw at all. No,
I agree. No, I mean, I agree. There is one, the one where Buckner was in and they got a TFL off the one, out the Sam Backer was up on the line and crashed. I mean, that was easy. I mean, that was an easy one to look at.
If you bring in Buckner, I mean, I don't know what else you do. I mean, are you going to bring in Buckner and sling the ball around? I mean, that's what you got Jack Cohn for. I don't know.
Well, one thing, going back, if you chart his packages, his personnel groupings with Buckner, it's got to be 95% 12 personnel.
12, yep.
So it's all 12. So you come in 12, you're automatically going to get 9-man front.
Right.
Automatically, and I call it umbi for unbalance in my language there for football. So and literally out of those 12 packages, they're going unbalanced, meaning you're gotten tight end, wing, and the slot. You got 4 to the same side. So they're obviously it felt like a lot of the same stuff against Toledo that they did today. I would love to see them do more spread with the motions. I mean, look at the one motion they did last week. Tyree's wide open because they got mixed up in their coverage scheme off the one blitz that they did. Toledo did. So I was a little surprised they just don't come out, go 4 wides. Hey, how are you going to cover? So are you going to put now 7 in the box and go 4 across the board? Straight quarters man is what they call it. And now you have Buckner one-on-one on the outside all over the place and basically cover 0 on the outside. I'm surprised they haven't shown that yet, but I'm sure they will.
Sure. Good question here from Boogie Rider. We're straight into questions time. So if you guys want to drop us a question, please do so. To guarantee an answer, just drop a super chat. We'll definitely take it and sound the alarms. Boogie Rider says, based on the defensive scheme today, do you think Freeman has dialed it back from what he likes to do? I believe you talked about earlier, Tim, that it was a lot more.
No.
Go ahead.
I mean, I would say no. I don't think he dialed it back. I think he's not at all. I'm sitting here charting. I got little highlights all over my plays that say blitz, blitz, blitz. Their touchdown drive, I think the first 5 plays, he blitzed every single play. So I don't think he dialed back. He did, obviously, when they're up 27-13 with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, he dialed it back. Most definitely. The object at that point is to get the heck out of there, and he did. So I thought he was aggressive. The one thing he did more of today, which I said earlier, was he played 4-3. They stuck to their 4-man front more than ever. But there's some series where, boom, 1st and 10, they're in a 3-3. Bertrand's 8 yards back. There's one play, though. I mean, we could do a whole show on 27. 27's 8 yards back and just fills and gets a tackle for loss where he's starting at 8 yards back. So, I mean, you could talk about 27 all day long, but I don't think Freeman held back at all. I really don't. I thought he played his D a lot. If anything, one thing I noticed was a little less of the number 52, Bauer. A lot less of his type of a package today, which I call the AA package, where they're always faking and bluffing. Not a lot of faking and bluffing today. Seemed like they stuck to the true 3-3, boom, and or 4-3. The one wrinkle, real quick on the sack, on one of the big sacks was they lined up in TNT, 5-man front. They covered the guards and tackles. Foskey did an amazing job because they wanted to hit the screen down there in the student section. They want to hit the screen. Foskey jumps it, and they get the pressure off the wide side. So that was a little wrinkle. He had not shown any TNT yet this year, so that was pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, everybody, if you're watching us live, please hit that thumbs up. Really appreciate that. I mentioned earlier that when we talked about the tight ends, we hadn't really talked about the defensive backs. Obviously, Kyle Hamilton was great. It was awesome to see DJ Brown get that interception.
Yeah.
But when you talk about an aggressive defense, that leaves your corners out on an island, and that's not cornerbacks has not been a strength under Brian Kelly, especially in the past couple of years. What do you think about Cam Hart and Clarence Lewis today? Seemed like they really held their own.
Yeah, they're solid. I mean, Hart gives up a couple passes here and there.
Who wouldn't when you're in a lot of one-on-one coverage,
no,
right?
Oh, I totally understand, but his length. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
I'm expecting his length to make a few. I mean, he's a good football player, by the
Yeah,
way.
he is.
But that's a guy who has not played any football, and all of a sudden he's out there for the first time this year. So there's another newbie out there playing in a brand new defense, and he's seeing the field for the first time. Lewis is who he is. He's he's a scrap iron. That guy plays his tail off, and he gets after it. They play aggressive. That is the one thing no fan, I truly believe, can sit back and say defense has not played, with their tail on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, in all games, the only time was when they just relaxed a little bit in the Florida State game, and I humbly believe that was just the heat and the humidity. Up by 18, they relaxed a little. But in 3 games, Mike, and to all the Notre Dame fans out there, they're playing their tails off. Marcus Freeman has those guys flying around.
All right, let's have you put your coach hat on and take this question here from
Sure.
from Chris. Says Notre Dame coaches need to make a decision on Buckner, either let him play the full playbook or sit him and stop wasting eligibility. Where do you fall on this? Let him play and hand him the keys, or bench him, or do what they've been doing now. Where are you at?
Do what they're doing now. Every single game, he's got to get his feet wet somehow. And I think, the first game, they went with Cone and they let it rip and they scored, 40 plus points. So, and then now after that, I think that was Kelly's thing that he wanted to do is let's get out of Tallahassee. It's going to be wild. It's going to be crazy. And it was. And then let's start bringing Buckner in. I agree with the thing about, the full playbook. As far as expand his packages, which we just talked about here a few minutes ago, was, just don't throw Buckner out there with double tights and can, keep everything so tight in the box for him. Open it up, give him some 4 wides, so maybe he could run a quarterback draw, a quarterback ISO, do a little bit more run game from there. As far as wasting eligibility, you better play Buckner, because who's going to be taking a snap in Columbus, Ohio, the first weekend of September next year? Cone's not coming back. So you better play him and get him as much reps and as much love and as much experience as possible. But I'll tell you one thing: when he's out there, the smile on his face. Seriously, when you see him come out there, you just feel energized. You're just like, my God, this guy's going to take off every time he gets the ball. So he feels like an old single wing quarterback playing in the 1940s for Frank Leahy, getting the ball and going off tackle and going crazy. But he is an energizer bunny. So I truly believe you need to play him a little bit each and every game. Just keep giving him some sprinkles. And if you get shut down, there was a play today where he got tackled. Cone comes in, boom, first down he throws.
A couple really good questions here. KR, what lineman sprung Karen Williams? A hell of a block. They need recognized. We've talked about this play a little bit. Joe Alt, was lined up next to Tosh Baker, came inside, made a nice block. Baker, it was just a very well blocked play. And then Kyron made it go from a 6-yard run to a 50-yard run.
It's physical. The very first snap, when I had to rewind it and break down each guy was, first off, all of them got off the ball, but you watch Zeke Carell, 52 left guard. He is in that defender's belly button, like in a snap, like blink, and he's already off. That guy got off the ball so darn fast, and then Baker just washes it down. Alt then squeezes down, gets to the second level, and just as you see Kyron starting to break, you see Alt just boom pancaking his guy, which is awesome. I think all those guys get credit, and then obviously the majority of the credit goes to goes to Williams. But that's how that kid runs. That guy runs like there's a brick wall in front of him every single snap, and I got to get through it. He just keeps his feet going. He's a violent runner. And kudos, just real quick, Chris Tyree, doesn't he seem to have a little bit more of a physical presence about him than a year ago, and even more of a physical presence than just 2 weeks ago at Florida State.
Sure.
I think each game he's starting to be like, heck, man, I could run inside these plays and get it. So I really, I noticed that a little bit today. I don't know what his stats were, but I kind of liked his physical presence today when he was running inside today.
Yeah, Chris Tyree had 4 receptions, 30 yards, and then 11 carries, 29 yards along those six.
Physical runs. Yeah,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
physical runs in there.
All right, question from Alberto. He says, "Can we even call Bertrand a surprise anymore? Is he that good, or is it the nature of the role in this defense?" I would also add, is it a little bit of both?
Well, that's the easy way to say a little of both, right? Yeah, I mean,
It's the
is he a
loose emoji
surprise?
answer.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Is he a surprise? Yeah, because where's he been? I mean, there's so many times where you've read Blue and Golds or you've seen some videos and,
Tim, let me
and
let me
whatnot.
interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Is he
Go ahead.
even starting if it's not for Maris Lufal's injury? You know,
Hey, I would. What's funny is that was actually in my notes. I'm like, where would 27 have been? Seriously, he's unbelievable. He's got the I know I told you this. He's got the instincts of Joe Schmidt. Joe Schmidt played because he's smart as a whip and just knew how to diagnose everything. And then, my favorite linebacker at Notre Dame ever is Stonebreaker, Michael Stonebreaker. Just the way he just fit and played nasty and aggressive and just the tone. Never talked. You never see JD Bertrand get up and say anything. He's like, boom, next play, let's go. I mean, the mentality this guy has. So he's relentless. But you got to give Marcus Freeman. He saw something in him. He's been a stellar football player in his 3-3 package. Because what they do in their 3-3, they put him back because they're rotating so much coverages is what they're doing. And he's a part of that when they do a little bit of Tampa 2 and they're dropping Hamilton in the box a ton when they're there. And he's dropping to the middle. Foskey's been the stud, Mike Backer, when they do their 3-3. Foskey's in that box filling. But hey, Marcus Freeman's found something about him, and he's in there. So where would Leofau, where would he have fit? Unless he was just an absolute man-child in camp in this scheme.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we are about wrapping down here. If anyone has any last-second questions, just go ahead and drop those. See if we can get to them. We just got a couple more minutes left in the show. Yeah, Tim. I kind of talked about this earlier, but I'll bring it up again. Early look at next week. I mean, you're kind of getting into a really tough stretch with, Wisconsin and Cincinnati being your next 2 games. But, I mean, it's not like this murderer's row stretch, which that's a total,
Oh yeah.
like that's a hyperbole. But still, it's a tough stretch. Wisconsin's lost. Cincinnati's looked human. I mean, Indiana was beating them today until Cincinnati came back. North Carolina lost Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech just lost to West Virginia. USC fired their coach. I mean, after getting crushed by Stanford. So it's a tough stretch still. If the 2020 or 2018 Notre Dame teams had the stretch, it would just be, I think, just kind of roll over them. But this is just not as good as the teams last year. There's no doubt about that.
No doubt about it.
That's a very Tim Hyde term, no doubt about that. That's
No
one
doubt
of your
about it.
go-tos. That's why I said that. So what are you thinking about Notre Dame, Wisconsin right now?
It's gonna be physical. It's gonna be physical. That's the most standard answer you could have. It's gonna be
There's
physical.
no doubt about that.
There's no exactly, but it is gonna be physical. I mean, this ball game, it's gonna be a 21-17 football game. It's gonna be a 21-17 type of football game. I think it's gonna be that type of knuckle, gut wrenching type of football game. But Notre Dame's got some skill guys. And I think they're going to just keep expanding. Maybe they don't do as much 12 personnel. I'm looking forward to watching a little bit of Wisconsin, but also I believe this begins everyone on Notre Dame's schedule gets 2 weeks to prepare for them coming up here for the next 6-7 weeks.
Yeah.
So which is obviously going to be a little advantage to them, and obviously they know Jack Cohn. I hope Coach Kelly and them realize a corner blitz is going to happen at least once or twice. You could guarantee that after seeing that the last few games. But yeah, when you say the murderer's row, it's just murderer's row because they're all good football teams. But there's no juggernaut. There's no, I don't think any of these teams are going to be playing or going to be a playoff team. I don't think so.
Wonder how the lines are going to look for some of these. I'm going to pull
Stick
up.
to three. Stick to three. The win by three is going to be the mantra, right?
I'm just curious if there's a line. It looks like Wisconsin is a 1.5 favorite. I've got the Yahoo
What?
app on my phone, so that
Really?
sounds about right.
Wisconsin, a 1.5 favorite.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
I mean it's basically a pick. I mean that sounds about right to me.
Okay. All right. So Vegas thinks Wisconsin's better than Notre Dame. I don't know. Me personally, I think this Notre Dame team's just going to keep getting better. Maybe
Oh
they're a point
yeah,
and a half because of the line issues and whatnot. But I mean, next week, think of this. Next week, for the first time all season long, Notre Dame's going to walk out the same group of five.
sure.
You know, I mean, I
Well,
mean,
unless Carmody
all,
comes
all,
back and they want to put Carmody in there.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And by the way, I like him. He's good. He's good.
They're
He's
both good
good.
players.
Carmen, if you're going to make a move, which is not going to happen, Brian Kelly is not going to bench his fifth string right tackle. But I mean, Carmody's played
Right.
better, when he's been out there better than Lug, I feel.
You said fifth string.
So
You meant fifth year senior.
fifth year senior, excuse me. Yeah. Fifth year senior. So they're not going to bench Lug. That's not going to happen, But Carmody eventually should play guard.
Well, they could slide Lug inside. He's played some guard in his career. They could. I mean, that's a big
True.
guard at 6'7", but they could always slide him inside. And if you really want, Carmody and Baker out there, I don't know. We're
True. I
spitballing
mean,
here.
exactly. Spitballing right there. But Carmody's physical. When you watch some of his plays, but it keeps going back to you got two guys that are playing left tackle. Carmody did all his reps a ton at right,
During
correct?
fall. Yeah.
Yeah, during fall and even back in spring. Because how many times we just kept hearing Fishers with the ones, Fishers with the ones, Fishers with the ones,
And it was
all spring long.
Baker's with the twos. He
Yes,
was also with the ones, but yeah, it was him at left tackle. So yeah,
exactly. And Carmody's playing nothing but right. And all of a sudden, he's thrown into the fire when Fisher goes down at halftime there at FSU. So you just got to keep coaching those old linemen. They're going to give up a couple plays, but if they give up a couple plays, Notre Dame's got to, they're going to come back and try and hit a deep ball to get those yards back. I think that's going to be a little bit of their philosophy there.
all right. Well, we got a kind of an early score prediction there from Tim Hyde,
Oh yeah,
with him saying that he feels like Notre Dame is the better. Vegas, like we've seen, it's not. You don't want to mess with Vegas. They're pretty smart. So we'll see we'll see how that line gets
well,
bet.
yeah, most definitely. And watch a little game film. I'll watch a little film this week on Wisconsin. See, but I'm actually surprised by that. By you telling me that they're an early point and a half. I was taken
What would
back by
you
that.
line it at?
Notre Dame by 3.
Really?
Neutral field. Notre Dame by 3.
Hmm. Yeah, it's in Chicago. Pretty
Yeah,
pretty Notre Dame
yeah.
favorite.
And
Yeah.
plus Notre Dame's never lost one of the, alternative jersey games. So you got to keep that streak going.
Sure, sure. All right. Well, we have reached the hour 3 minute mark, so we are going to sign off. We really appreciate those who joined us live here. Awesome group, great questions, great interaction with you guys. So appreciate that. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't subscribed to our channel. Go to blueandgold.com for all of the coverage from this game, as well as tons of recruiting information. This has been quite the eventful past couple days, especially with a top 100 quarterback recruit in the 2023 class made his way to campus for a surprise visit. He got offered today. I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm not even going to try it. First name Nico, but 6'6" passer, really intriguing looking player. So I'll have details about him at blueandgold.com.
Is that
Tim, you got something to add?
is he from Warren High School?
Yes. You know him?
Oh, yeah, he's
Did you
unbelievable.
coach against him?
At a 7-on-7, he's unbelievable. I mean, seriously, I think the 23 guy is the Los Alamitos guy who's getting all that. That's the Oklahoma guy, right?
Yep, Malik Nelson, yeah, or Malachi
Yeah,
Nelson.
they were supposed to. I believe they were supposed to play this week, and they got there was a COVID with one of the schools. So the Warren guy, hey, Notre Dame fans out there, go watch this guy's film. He is absolutely big time.
All right. Well, that's going to do it. Again, appreciate you guys. We will catch you next time.